Mr. Porter, how's it going tonight? It is a Tuesday night, and we are live with our A Sea of Red weekly podcast, and it feels wonderful. So before we get into it all, I want to just say we're welcome to the new studio. We've got the whiteboard, Liberty 21, Arkansas 19. Got the diploma, the bobblehead freeze, a mini helmet, the Elijah Cuffey first game ticket. We've got a jersey of an unnamed player that we'll get into later, not this episode, and a helmet signed by Rashad Jennings, along with some celebratory cigars up here. This first one is the BYU one. I believe the second one is Malik Gets Drafted. This one is signed by Hugh Freeze, and this last one here is the Arkansas game. So some really cool stuff in the new studio. Just wanted to point that out. And second thing is, Jason, how are we not ranked in the college football playoff rankings that came out tonight? 19 AP, 19 in coaches, and not ranked in the college football playoff. What's the deal?
Yeah, tough to figure that one out. The new ensemble there looks really, really big time there, though, Chad. I will give it to you. I've just kind of got the plain background back there of a painting that I didn't paint, so I'm impressed. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I think we just gotta continue to take care of business on the field, man, and let the scoreboard do the talking. I mean, that's all we can do. But boy, what a fun couple of weeks it's been.
Oh, it's been quite a ride. So some of the conversations that have happened around my house are me going on and on about Arkansas win, SEC. First road win on the SEC, first win in the SEC, all that kind of stuff. And my wife comments, how many biggest wins in school history are we going to have this year? And it's just like, I'm trying to, I mean, I think it's like, so I told somebody the other day, the biggest with the way that what it meant and the way it made me feel, what it meant in terms of to the fan was probably BYU. I ranked that up there just with the vision, the way that the stadium was packed. Everything was wonderful about that night. So for me, BYU, meaning BYU is number one. How it propelled the program, I'm going with Baylor. Back in the day when we beat Baylor, the way that students and everybody celebrated around that, it kind of just drew a lot of attention to the program, and it kind of let us know that we could hang even as an FCS opponent. And then as far as the best team we've ever beat, easily Arkansas. That running back, that offensive line, that quarterback, we're going to see a lot of players from that team play on Sundays. Right. Yep. They are the best team, the best roster that we've ever beat. So, we're going to have to start when you look at the Mount Rushmore, we're going to have to start putting up like different categories, like, okay, meaning to the program, meaning to the fan. So all that kind of stuff. So, what are your thoughts on the magnitude of that game?
Yeah, I was going to say, just even looking at the recap here on the graphic, Chad, this is almost one of those things where you look at 21-19, even talking to some people, they're like, wow, that was a close game. And you think about it, it really wasn't. It wasn't until,
Mm-mm.
the last few minutes there of the fourth quarter when Arkansas kind of woke up and they went to work. But just the O line, D line was just dominant once again, and I think that was one of the things that was so telling. They just won the battle of the trenches, which is a great segue to Brendan coming on here in a minute. But it was just so impressive from start to finish. I know they probably would like to tweak some things from the second half of the offense from that perspective, but overall, just the dominance was really incredible to go into that environment. And it was so telling too when they start painting the stands, start of the fourth quarter, and the Arkansas fans were just disappearing. And I thought, wow, this is something to behold. Interestingly enough, as well.
Yeah, you brought him up, Brennan Schlittler, our guy, live with 55 is how this whole thing got started, and we're gonna bring him in right now and see what his thoughts were from Saturday night. There he is, live with 55. Main man, go ahead, right from the jump. Let's hit the RTR ad read.
All right, let's roll. All right, so as you said, this segment is sponsored by RT Rogers, an energy distribution company based out of West Virginia, owned and operated by Greg Rogers, an LU alumni, taking care of his people here. They deliver to 6 different states, and regardless of their fueling needs or location, they bring quality fuel, exceptional service, and leading expertise right to your door.
Flawless.
Bingo. Nailed it.
It only took week 11.
Yeah, week 11, we got it. So still yeah. Anyways, Greg texted me on Saturday night. And Brendan, this is just kind of to let you behind the curtain. You always kind of help us understand what a player is from a fan perspective. My phone was blowing up on Saturday, and one of those was Greg Rogers. He sent me a picture of a big bonfire he was having there in West Virginia. And his comment was, when you talk to Brendan again, tell him I said thank you. So here it is. Greg says thank you. Look, man, those moments mean so much to us. I mean, I know they mean a lot to you. It's on your resume. It's something you accomplished through a lot of hard work, and it's something you and your team will always have together. But never forget how much that means to us too, who it's promoting our university. You see my diploma up here. When I go to work and I have to tell people, it's gone from I have to tell people to I get to tell people where I went to school, and have you and your teammates and your coaches to thank for a lot of that. So never undersell what that means to us as fans. Want to get that from your perspective. What does this win mean to you as a player? Are you already grind mode on the next week? And when will you take the opportunity to look back at your resume and say, man, I've done some cool things as a college football player?
Yeah, I don't think it's totally set in what just happened on Saturday, but at the same time, once Monday hits, it's out the window. So we've already talked as the boys. We're fully focused on UConn. As funny as that is, I know the fans usually get till about Saturday morning, but we got to go straight to UConn, focus on them. But we've already talked. We were planning on sitting down after the season and watching all the TV copies of BYU and Arkansas and hopefully Virginia Tech and some other bigger games. So we're definitely going to soak that in, and that was it was insane for that to happen. But yeah, we're focused on UConn, but that was awesome.
Brendan, I think to sort of pile on what Chad's talking about, I mean, obviously, congratulations on Saturday, but I was just kind of curious too, walking around town and you guys were out shopping and, at Target and running errands and stuff like that, and walking around in your official gear that's obvious that it ain't coming from the bookstore. And they see, Liberty football, and obviously you're not real subtle being undercover at your size. No offense, of course, but what kind of comments are you getting around the community? Everybody hollering at you and saying, "Way to go!" What kind of things are you guys hearing?
Yeah, the fans always are saying stuff to us. We roll in a group as an offensive line. Usually, there's always 2 or 3 of us together at the same time. So kind of hard to miss. But they're always so supportive. They're proud and just keep thanking us for what we're doing. But at the end of the day, we can't do it without them. So it's a 2-way street, and we're thankful for them as well. But they're always saying something out there.
Brendan, I don't know if you've noticed, but I got this cool swivel mic, and That felt so cool to bring the mic back in and say something. So you can see it up here on the graphic. Bennett does it again! Exclamation point. Jonathan Bennett, 15 for 25, 224 yards, 3 TTs, and 1 interception, which I thought was a decently thrown ball and one-on-one coverage. And even Free said wide receiver could have helped him out a little bit there. As somebody who knows Jonathan Bennett, who has been around Jonathan Bennett through this entire wave of ride that he's been on, roller coaster is a better word. You're JB's roommate, right? And so what is it that we don't see that makes this guy have what I tweeted earlier this week is a competitive spirit in spite of circumstances, his stick with it mentality? And what is it that just makes him be able to come out in the 2 biggest games in school history and perform like an all pro type quarterback, despite just being constantly buried on a depth chart? And kind of, did you expect this? Did you see this coming? Did you know he had it in him? I mean, I know he's your roommate, but give us some like behind the scenes. Like, is this JB? Like, I was really, really proud of him, and I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, since the moment he got on campus, we've been close friends. I knew at some point he was going to lead us to some crazy wins, but we were talking the other day, and I'm like, dude, looking back, like week 3, did you think that this would have ever happened? And he's like, no. I'm like, this is crazy, especially with you. And I would just say his ability to wake up and go to work and not care what happened previously and continue to build and build and build. And chop that tree down every single day. He doesn't care what happened before. He's going to come to work and he's going to be consistent. And I think so many people are, they focus on their feelings or their past, their failures, what people are saying. And that kid's the exact opposite. He's had the ability to just be mentally tough. And it's kind of all coming to fruition right now. So I'm sure he's thankful for that. And I know the fans are too. So.
Yeah, Brendan, I know too, in our graphic, we've got up there about A-Day going down. What can you give us update wise as far as what's going on there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know he has MRI today, but I'm sure Coach will update that on Thursday.
Sure.
I actually haven't even heard what's happened, so I just know he got banged up there in the game, but we'll see what happens.
So when you're talking about rankings, now I'm going to give you the reason I'm so long-winded when I talk to Brendan is I'm giving him time to formulate his answers. So I gave him what the question's coming up. It's coming up about rankings. So take your time. Rankings. We're 19 AP, 19 coaches poll, and then the college football playoff rankings come out tonight, and we are not top 25. We're actually outside of the top 25 in these college football. Those are the ones that matter for bowl game selection. What type of motivation does that give you? Do you even pay attention to it? Do the coaches talk about it? And really, if you just want to say on to UConn, I'd be happy with that right about now.
I'll give you a little something. I would say from our perspective, the most important thing at the end of the day is what our record is. It doesn't matter if we won by 1 point or 50. It's always a win is a win. And that sounds cliche, but it's the truth. So for us to get these wins down the stretch here, that's the focus, and it's not on these 9 people that want to sit there and judge us. So at the end of the day, like, obviously we're not happy with it, but we're focused on winning the last 3 games, specifically this week, and that's all we can take care of. We know going back to 2020, that committee isn't a huge fan of our team, so we're not really bothered by it, but we're just going to keep focusing on, improving, trusting the process, and winning. So,
hey, John, I see you're in here. Go ahead and tweet all those quotes on the Sea of Red right now, and do what you can to put those quotes out there for everybody to see. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, Brennan, just looking at UConn to the average fan here, 5-5 doesn't really scream a competitive ball game, but again, records are records. But I think it's worth noting too, 3 of those 5 losses for those guys: Michigan, Syracuse, and NC State. Hello. So they've played some big boys just like we have, and I think you guys are gonna be ready to go on Saturday. I know 44 degrees up in Connecticut, blah blah blah. But what kind of things are you guys seeing already as you've been breaking them down here the last couple days?
Yeah, this is a game coming into the season. You look at the schedule, and it's like you think it should be one of the easier wins, and that's just how you think. But this is a team that has a new coach this year, Jim Mora, and he has won at a lot of places. And
Playoffs?
I would say, yeah, and I would say our team, this is the best job we've done at recognizing kind of like a trap game like this, where our practice today did not seem like it was UConn week. We're practicing the same that we have the last 11 weeks. We're going full-fledged, just like ready to go. So that team is much improved. Depth-wise, they're not probably where they want to be, but they fight like hell. And, we were talking, they kind of remind us of us in 2019 where you're, the 5-7 winish type of team where you don't got much, but you have a fight in you, and that's how they are. They got high motors. They play hard, and it's definitely going to be a challenge, but, we take pride in playing hard and being in shape as well. So at the end of the day, we have to be us. We have to practice just as hard this week and simply execute the game plan, and hopefully we'll come out with a big win.
Hey, good stuff as always, man. We're you've built quite the community of offensive line fans out there, and we're watching the game, and the way you guys kind of manhandled, not manhandled, the way you guys kind of controlled the offensive line on Saturday was one for the ages, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy that this summer when you cut on the TV copy of the game. Congratulations, man. As always, thanks for the good stuff. We are going to watch a Jason Porter ad here and then go straight to John Manson. Jason, thanks for joining us tonight. You're a pros pro. Hey,
Thank you.
This is the new standard for backdrops. So, Brendan, if you could get your curtain and fan out of the way, and Jason, you got this to live up to. Let's get it.
Not always good to you. You guys have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jason Porter. I'm with Legacy Realty and Development, and it's been a great partnership here with Sea of Red lately. I was with Liberty Athletics as the Associate Athletic Director for Sports Medicine, so took care of all of the healthcare needs and coordinated that with a fantastic staff at Liberty in the athletic department, of course, for about 5 or 6 years, and then moved into real estate full-time and with Legacy Realty and Development. And it's just been a great pleasure to continue to stay connected with my Liberty University family and the athletics family as well. Been enjoying serving them. A lot of the graduate assistants and some of the staff that I hired has come back now and has been using me for residential services, which I really appreciate. But certainly do residential real estate as far as buying and selling of homes, of course. And then also we have a strong commercial presence as well. So commercial real estate, obviously a very, very different animal than is residential. But whether it's buying and selling commercial properties or just the leasing of properties, we can help with that as well. So it's been a great opportunity to service our commercial clients as well. And then certainly on the investment front too, a number of folks who have discovered the power of passive income through real estate and investing in real estate with rental properties or fix and flips, those kind of things. And so great joy to serve my clients in that capacity as well. The other thing that I would add too is just a very, very full Rolodex at this point of contractors and subs and just different professional contacts that I've made through the years. So if I can ever provide any of those folks to you and all of a sudden you need a plumber or an electrician or a contractor to build your deck, whatever, I'd certainly be glad to give you access to that Rolodex and those references as well. Because a lot of times it's not exactly who you know, it's who you know that knows how to do the job well. And so I would be glad to provide those services for you as well. So love Flames Nation, love taking care of my Liberty family. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, my contact information is all right here on the screen. And I would love to be a service to you and yours. Thanks so much.
There he is, main man, creator, founder, all things the Sea of Red, and my good friend. I think I've added one to the title, Boss Man. I don't know if you like that or not, but we'll work on it. Boss Man, John Manson, fresh off of a whirlwind of a trip to Arkansas. John, we'll start there. Arkansas was man, it was insane. And you and I have talked, and we talked about a little bit about with Jason. You have been at all 5 Power 5 wins in Liberty history. Go ahead and tell us your favorite one, or you're the best one, or the most meaningful one, or the most meaningful one for the program. You can categorize it however you want. If you got to get all 5 of them in there, tell us what you think about that win and how it ranks up there for you as a fan and for the program.
Well, first of all, I do want to continue to give you a shout out for your setup. It's nice. Got the new mic,
Hey.
got the nice background. You're making me feel bad. And I'm downstairs. I'm normally up in my kitchen doing the podcast, but my wife's sick, so I came downstairs to let her sleep. I'm in the basement, and this is my office, but my problem is all my memorabilia I'm looking at it, but I got the Sparky bobblehead, Hugh Freeze bobblehead,
Okay.
and a lot of other stuff. I know we don't want to sit here and do this all day, but I got it all. I'll get it set. I'll get it set up as we have time.
Okay.
But
well,
anyways,
we're gonna miss the kitchen curtains. Not gonna lie, tonight's gonna be a little different. I'm gonna miss those kitchen balances. I think they're called.
Hey, don't shoot me. That's all Morgan. But yeah. Anyways, 5 P5 wins. I mean, it's crazy. Baylor 2017, 2020. We picked up Syracuse and Virginia Tech, and then this year we've gotten BYU and Arkansas so far, and somebody asked me that on Twitter, and it's really, I started to go in and answer the question, what's my favorite win? What's the best win? And it's almost impossible to do so. And I kind of joked, it's like, trying to name your favorite kids. And now we got my mom in here, so that's good too. But anyways, no, it's almost impossible to try to rank those. And we're also getting to the point where, like if you asked an Alabama fan, like what are the 5 biggest wins in Alabama football history? Like they can't even name them, right? I mean, they're all national championships and they got more than 5, so they can't name them. Well, Liberty, not to say Liberty's Alabama yet, of course not, but Liberty's getting to the point where you can't really say, oh, here's the 5 biggest wins in school history. Because, what is the biggest win in school history? And you could argue a few different ones, but all 5 of those were special. Baylor, I mean, that was the first one ever. It was a coming out party of Buckshot and AGG. Being able to make the trip, I drove all the way down there. It was a crazy experience. Picked up my brother on the way. My dad went with me. So, that's one I'll never forget. And then, beating Virginia Tech, we've talked about this before, growing up here in Virginia, that games means more, as does playing UVA, than maybe it does to all Liberty fans. So that one was obviously special, being able to get that win in Lane Stadium. Syracuse was the first ever win over an ACC team, which meant a lot. And then, you look at this year, I mean, BYU, how can you leave that one out? What that meant for the school and the program and the university, just for the mission and everything. And then obviously beating an SEC team. Arkansas, you already mentioned it, that's the best team Liberty's ever beaten. And I agree with that. So I don't know how I can pick one as my favorite, that they're all great. And, I'm glad, it's crazy. You talk to Hugh Freeze, like, the biggest win in school history, and the next week you're back in there talking again, the biggest win in school history, and it's crazy. I mean, we've had this conversation so many times over the past 3 years or so, 4 years under Hugh Freeze. Is this the best team Liberty's ever played? Is this the best team Liberty's ever beat? Is this the best win in school history? And it just goes back to this rise with us moniker, right? That Liberty talks about, and we have risen, and as we keep rising, that level that you're reaching for and aiming for keeps getting higher and higher. So it's been an incredible run, and I'm glad to enjoy it, and hope it's not stopping anytime soon.
Let me swivel in my microphone here. So we had a question on Twitter today that I want to get to from Trev Spy, who he had basically, it was about Conference USA and the week non-conference schedule. This is all about football moves. So let me read the question. Concerns about the weakness of the schedule moving forward, 2023. And then also no Power 5 opponents. And yeah, thoughts about adding Sam Houston, Jacksonville State, and Kennesaw. So, John, why don't you go ahead and take a stab at this one? What is your opinion of adding Conference USA? Would you take the trade-off? Would you take the trade of being in a conference and losing the P5 games and basically having a really weak schedule next year? Was it worth the trade-off? Let's talk about just football if we can.
Sure. I don't think those two things are necessarily mutually exclusive. I think even if Liberty remained an independent, some of these games were going to come off, maybe not all of them. But what has happened, in my opinion, and based on, what people have said to me and what I've heard, is that, Liberty had to, move into Conference USA. They didn't have to, but moving into Conference USA, they had to drop 8 games a year to make room for conference games. So that's 8, times however many seasons that we had full schedules. So you're talking like 40 games roughly had to be moved. And so, your North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, who are some of the other Power Fives that we had on there, immediately we're going to call Liberty and say, hey, you have to move 40 games. Well, we'd love to get out of this if you don't make us have to pay this buyout. So I think that's a lot of how some of those games ended up coming off. I hate that. A lot of those games were very attractive. The North Carolina home and home, 2-for-1. The Duke 2-for-1. The Wake was supposed to come to Lynchburg here in a couple of years. I mean, all those are very attractive games and games Liberty could win, and we could continue to add Power 5 wins. So I hate that. But I also don't think that's necessarily only because we're going to Conference USA. I mean, as Liberty wins more and more games and beats more and more Power 5 teams, like, do you think Arkansas is going to ever want to play Liberty anytime soon? Ever going to schedule Liberty? No. We see it in men's basketball with Missouri. I mean, we were supposed to go to Missouri this year, and they were going to pay us to come there. But we whooped them last year in the Liberty Arena, so they didn't want to play us. So they said, oh, no, we don't want to play you. We'd rather pay to not play you than pay you to come here. So, I mean, it's going to be more of the same on the football side. And Todd Patulski, who's basically the CFO of Liberty athletic department, I had a conversation with him about I think it was during the 2020 season when Liberty was – in the midst of that, what ended up being a 10-1 year and number 17 ranking at the end of the year and the AP poll. He told me that scheduling in football is very similar to buying and selling stocks, right? You want to, buy low and sell high. So when Liberty was first moving into the FBS, everybody like Arkansas and South Carolina and North Carolina, et cetera, looked at Liberty as, oh, that's an easy win, and it's an FBS win, so we can play an FCS school and a brand new FBS in Liberty, and that's 2 easy wins towards bowl eligibility. Well, now you fast forward 4 or 5 years later, after they schedule those games, they're like, oh, wait, that's not an easy win. That's a tough win. And if we're lucky enough to beat Liberty, it doesn't do anything for us. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, cool, nice win. Arkansas, you're expected to beat Liberty, even though they're 7-1 and ranked in the top 25. So I think that's a lot of, what's happened on that scheduling forefront. We're seeing it in all sports. We're seeing it in basketball, right? We talked about that a lot. We're obviously in football now. We're seeing it as well. There is another side to this thing. Like, you start off as being so bad that people don't mind playing you, to you growing to be, we're good enough to beat you, but not respected enough that it matters, to you get to the other side of it where you are respected as a top G5 program, like Liberty's kind of gotten that way in baseball. I mean, you look at the schedule that baseball is able to put together in softball. I mean, those are legitimate top 25 programs over there, and they're able to play a Duke and a Carolina and a Virginia year in, year out, home and home series. So hopefully before too long, we can get to the other side of this in football and basketball and get some of these P5s back on the schedule. But yeah, it's a negative. But ultimately, at the end, to try to answer the question, which we could sit here and talk about it for an hour, but to try to answer the question, yes, in my opinion, it's worth it. I mean, we're sitting here and complaining, and I think rightfully so, about not being in the CFP top 25 this week. But that doesn't really matter necessarily for Liberty this year, because the rankings, they don't mean anything other than you got the number by your name when people are pulling up the ESPN app to check scores. So other than that, it doesn't really matter. But if we were in Conference USA and on track to win the league, then yes, it would matter, because we'd want to beat out Tulane, UCF, whoever else is in the G5, and get into the New Year's Six. So when we're talking about that, yes, I love the fact that we're going to Conference USA, and the more, I don't know, again, we could talk about it so much, but it's only a matter of time before I think the CFP does eventually include us in their rankings. They got a lot of questions about it. The CFP chair or whatever he's called, Greg Sankey, he got a lot of questions about Liberty and why they weren't included and what held them out. So that there's obviously some conversations going on. So, I mean, if Liberty goes 11-1 in the regular season, which is a big if, that, you got to, 1-0 every week, right? But, they're going to get included. And, Liberty keeps rising in the other polls in top 15, knocking on the door of top 10, hopefully, possibly. It's going to be hard to leave them out of the CFP top 25. And I think you had a couple tweets about it. Sorry, I'm rambling on and on, but this goes into next year, right? I mean, if Hugh Freeze comes back, if the bulk of the team remains intact, which most of them are underclassmen or have another year of eligibility at least, and Liberty finishes 12-1 and ranked in the top 15, it's going to be pretty hard to keep them out of the preseason top 25 poll. So if you start out in the preseason top 25 and let's say you run the slate, which that's a big if. But, by time the week 7 or week 8 rolls around and you're undefeated and ranked in the top 15 of both those polls, it's going to be pretty hard, regardless of your strength of schedule, for the CFP committee to kind of leave you out. I'll shut up.
All right. I got a little bit to say here. First of all, Faye, thank you for watching tonight. It's been a pleasure to have you. I am just so Do you go by John or Jonathan?
My mom calls me Jonathan, so there you go.
Okay. All right. Second thing I would have to say is John and I did a whole hour episode on this prior to getting the invite to CUSA. And my thought is, look, we needed friends in the NCAA. Okay, we didn't have any friends. We were the basically we had a lot of money. And we were playing against Big South schools and ASON schools who really didn't have the resources we had. And we needed friends in the NCAA. I think joining the Conference USA has helped us tremendously. As Nick has pointed out in the comments, it helps with basketball and baseball tremendously. Basketball is going to be one of the top 7-8 conferences in the country, not just G5 conferences. It's going to be right there at like 8. So when you're looking at combo conferences, and I've said this from the beginning, all right, Faye on Facebook, producer Nick is just dying laughing back here, throwing these comments up. It's all good. But Conference USA basketball, football combo, John, I think with Liberty being ranked and Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky and a few of the other football schools, Louisiana Tech, if a couple of those can rise to be in the top 50, top 60, we're going to easily be the best combo conference, because some of the good basketball conferences that are non-P5, they don't have football. And then you look at the Sun Belt, who's dominant in football, they're going to stink in basketball. Like, they're going to be awful in basketball. And you got the American Athletic Conference. Once they lose their teams, they're going to be kind of mediocre in both. Conference USA can dominate basketball and be really good in football and be the best G5 combo conference for the two biggest revenue sports, and that's football and men's basketball. Not to mention all the other sports that will elevate at Liberty. So definitely a huge move. That's the number one factor. Number two is our path to the playoff. I mean, if you want to keep South Carolina on the schedule, you want to keep Wake Forest on the schedule, but not have a path to the playoffs or not have a path to the New Year's Six, miss me with that completely. That's a terrible take. Like, I don't care about playing South Carolina on the road as a 14-point underdog. Yeah, we could win. Yeah, it would get some eyeballs on SEC Network, but we don't have a conference to get us into the college. Expanded playoffs includes the highest ranked G5 conference champion. We need that conference to be in the playoffs. So if you're looking at just like that one game and, oh, man, we had to drop South Carolina. Oh, man, we had to drop Wake Forest. If you're that nearsighted and you're not looking at the future of the college football playoffs, I had to take a minute there. You are kind of missing the boat on what this is all about. And it's not about, hey, let's have a big game for fans to watch on SEC Network. It's about, can our program make the New Year's Six or a college football playoff? So that's the two biggest factors for me. Is it's the best combo conference, and it's a path to the playoffs, and it's a path to New Year's Six, which we're seeing this year. We're kind of seeing that this year. We don't have a conference home. Nobody really thinks our games mean anything. Our strength of schedule is kind of junk. But with a conference, it doesn't matter. All we got to do is win our conference championship and be highly rated. So, I could go on and on, like you said, but Conference USA by far outweighs losing Wake Forest and South Carolina on the schedule.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And if we've learned anything from this season, the toughest schedule Liberty's ever faced, it's still not enough. I mean, Liberty's got wins over P5 teams. Arkansas, who has a winning record, BYU, who has a winning record, 1-point loss on the road to Wake Forest, who was just in the top 25 until they've lost their last two now. But, the committee has proven that it doesn't matter, So, having that one game on your schedule against a Wake Forest or whoever it may be, even if you win that at South Carolina, apparently it doesn't matter because, they're still going to take shots at our strength of schedule. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's, it's worth being in there. And part of this is just building up that reputation that Liberty is a legit, football G5 power. Everyone listening to this believes that because we are. We've seen the facts. We've looked at what's happened the last 3 or 4 years. And, our guy Kyle DeArmond has shared some of those facts, right, about how Liberty is basically, if not the best, one of the best G5s already. And that's even before these last couple of wins. And just keep doing that year after year. I mean, that's how Boise State got to where they were. They've kind of fallen off a little bit the last few years. But UCF, I mean, they're ranked despite, maybe their resume doesn't match up to what Liberty's is, but they've got that name recognition. They've got that cachet kind of built up. And, we've seen it with Cincinnati. I mean, they're not up there this year, but the last couple of years they were, creeping up and knocking on the door, being in the CFP, the top 4. And then they finally got into it last year. But that was after several years of, kind of, being top 15, top 10, top 12, top 8 and left out. So you just got to keep winning and take care of business on the field, and it'll eventually pay off in the eyes of the beholders, which are, as Brendan said, those 9 guys sitting up in a room in Indianapolis or wherever they're at.
9 guys judging us is what he said. If you want to go ahead and tweet that out. Hey, John, one last thing here, and that is crossover season. And that is how many teams do you come across for football that are just as excited about their basketball team as what we have here at Liberty? I mean, you go to all these, you sit in all these press conferences. How many of those guys are talking about, man, we got our first basketball game. Our team's going to be ranked in the top 100. We have a chance to make the NCAA. Our fans might expect us to go to the Sweet 16, maybe. Like we think that's how many teams are there in the country that are coming off this type of football season that are expecting the same for basketball during this crossover season that you've been a part of?
Yeah, the list is very short. But most recently, obviously, I was down in Arkansas, and they were very upset about the loss, right? But towards the end of that game, there was a couple of their student reporters down below me, and they were kind of talking after the game when I was finishing up my game stories and stuff, and they were talking about the basketball team. It was like, well, at least we have basketball to look forward to, and all that. But although I think they got a shot against LSU this week, so that'll be a nice win for Liberty if they can get that. But yeah, I mean, so Arkansas is kind of looking forward to that, and it was kind of cool to walk by, and they got a street there, Nolan Richardson Drive, right by the arena for the basketball, and they've obviously got a lot of tradition down there. But look around the Commonwealth of Virginia, right? I mean, you're around Virginia Tech fans all the time. They're ready for basketball season, right? They're done with football. They're ready to go on to basketball. My family's all UVA fans. They've moved on from football and ready for basketball.
Faye, don't let him talk about you like that.
She'll tell you they've moved on from football and ready for basketball, and the same can be said for an ODU or others around. So it's very rare and unusual for a team to have a top 20 football team, and yet at the same time, flipping the page and watching Darius McGee, score 17 points in 17 minutes last night, and all the hype around the basketball team, and get ready to go down and play Alabama. I mean, could you imagine the basketball team knocks off a top 20 Alabama team Friday night on the heels of the football team beating Arkansas?
Man, we own the SEC. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. All you SEC podcast hosts and website owners, come at me with some SEC stats with Alabama and everything like that. Hey, John, listen, you're the man. I appreciate you going down to Arkansas and all the time you spend covering our favorite team. You make this so much fun. You've made this whole podcast. You've made this so John, but you have to answer this last question that's just been popped up there. Does your mom really cheer for Liberty over UVA? Tell her the truth right now, live in front of everybody.
Well, I know for 100% that my dad does not. I also know for 100% that my brother, who's a Liberty alum, he does not, and I'm very upset about that. My mom, I'm not sure. She might be on the bandwagon with Liberty a little bit. I know she was a big fan of Jerry Falwell Sr., and we used to go, not to get onto this tangent, but we used to go to Living Christmas Tree back when I was 6 years old, and that was all her doing, and probably one of the big reasons why myself, my sister, and my brother all ended up at Liberty. But so she may be. I'll give her a pass on that one.
Okay, sounds good. He has John, thank you. You've given us this platform. Me, Nick, Will, Richie Longshots, Kyle, everybody that kind of contributes, Zach, all the writers you've hired. You've given us all this platform to have a voice about our favorite team and given us a hobby that is unmatched. I have so much fun doing this, and really appreciate you giving us that opportunity and all the hours that you've grinded away with countless thankless hours. So we appreciate it, man, and have a good night. And with that, we're going to get to Richie Longshots and get his picks for the week. There he is, Richie Longshots. Oh, got the Christmas tree up already. Got the Liberty swag on.
Not my choice with the Christmas tree.
Got the trucker headset on. You're looking good tonight. All right, you already kind of teased me a little bit about how many times I'm going to mention my background. You have the over 6.5 times for this show. So here's number 4.
Yep, there we go. So we'll need one more with Kyle and one more at the end.
What I'm going to tease you about is the over-under for the length of your schedule for your segment. Your schedule for like 12 minutes. I think the shortest we've ever done this is 22 minutes. So you're on the clock, my friend. What do you got for Liberty this week? Give us all your picks. How you feeling? What's going on? Update us about everything in your life and give us your picks in less than 12 minutes, and I'm a winner.
All right. So first things first, things were going great up until about 2 hours ago. Saturday was incredible. I was sitting in a Philadelphia sports bar surrounded by a bunch of sad Philadelphia Union fans and sad Philadelphia Phillies fans while I was standing on the chair at a bar singing Fan the Flames. It was incredible. We went 3-2 last week, but in that 3-2, I said on this show a week ago, I said, if you're going to bet Liberty money line and the under. That paid out almost 11-1. And if you're like someone like me, and you did bet that, it saved the week. To get 11-1 on anything is always awesome. It had a good week with 3-2, but to have a side bet where I hit for a pretty penny was an awesome way to start Saturday. Had a good betting day on Sunday. Went 3-0 single college basketball games yesterday. I'm starting to feel a little juju. Things are moving in the right direction. I'm feeling myself a little bit.
All this after just taking an absolute thrashing on Twitter for telling people to take Alabama. Explain yourself. Explain yourself.
So, for those who don't know, lines move when news comes out. And a football number like 14, I don't, if it's great, but if you can get 14.5, you're sitting there like, all right, I just lost by 2 touchdowns, but I ended up covering with that half a point. So the Liberty line was at 14, and I saw the rumors that JB was going to be out, which I didn't fully buy. And I crack a joke like many others did. And I just said, hey, now's the time to get Arkansas 14 because that line's going to move. And you would have thought I was converting to another religion with the attacks on my character. People were like tweeting John, like tattletaling on me. Like, guys, they don't bring me on here to just go, yep, bet Liberty, because guess who's 1-4 this year against the spread as a favorite? Liberty is. So yeah, I even said I'm not taking the spread. I'm taking the over-under on Liberty games for the rest of the year. I've retired from the point spread. I've retired from money line. It is on this show. I am giving you Liberty over-unders, and that's it. And oh my goodness. And then in the middle of the game, we're up 14-0, and I don't getting chirped. Like we're beating an SEC team, and people are worried about my losing bets. Oh, joke's on you. I won over $1,000 on Saturday because of my bets. So what I make a joke and people just going bananas.
So if you win $1,000, what you're telling me is you can afford a different headset. That sounds wonderful. All right, What do you got this week?
All right, so this week we'll kick things off. Jumping into Tulsa, Memphis. I like Memphis at home. Memphis has lost to a lot of pretty good teams. UCF, Tulane, ECU, Houston. They've had better losses in those games to Tulsa. Memphis flirting with, I think they are bowl eligible now. They're either at 5 or 6 wins, but I like this game within a touchdown. I saw 6.5, jumping all over that. Our game Saturday against UConn. Right now, Liberty's a minus 14.5, but like I just said, Liberty were 1-4 this year's favorites against the spread. That's not ideal. And UConn's got a bang up defense. In the last month, they've only allowed more than 20 points. I don't think they've allowed more than 20 points, maybe 20 or 21, but they haven't played a bunch of great teams, but they've shut down the teams that they have played. I think Liberty wins this game. I personally think they cover, but again, 1-4, it's hard to bet that. And again, I'm retired from Liberty point spreads. I could see this game being 28-14, 28-17, and you're still flirting with it. Maybe even 17-3, 21-3. I do think our defense is going to shut them down. They're going to hold them to 10 points or less. And at that point, how many points are we going to score? So 35-10, and we still catch that under there. Next up, Alabama, Ole Miss. I think this is going to be a game where Nick Saban is fired up. He has been hearing Feinbaum saying this is the worst coaching job ever. He is going to play for 60 minutes with his entire starting offense, and Lane Kiffin is going to play for 60 minutes. Regardless what the score is, Alabama could be up 58-0, and Lane Kiffin is going to be like, yeah, we're going to go get 7 with 35 seconds to go. They're going to try to score points. So I'd rather be on the right side of that. Alabama LSU last week was a game in the 30s. Also, shout out to me. I had LSU money line. I was just compounding wins last week. After that, La Tech, UTSA. A little shout out to our future conference USA mates. A little ESPN Plus afternoon game. UTSA. Let me pull up my notes here. They housed La Tech last year, and I think the game was at La Tech. They score a ton of points. I don't think La Tech's going to be able to keep up, so I see this being a 3-touchdown game. UTSA just seems like a team better at home. La Tech, I think they're 3-6. They're probably in that. All right, we're out of it. UTSA playing for a potential conference championship game, playing to increase their bowl status. I think they're already at 7 wins. And last but not least, we are on to Washington, Oregon. The legend of Bo Nix. Bo Nix is going to he's going to find himself in New York City in the Heisman discussion if they keep this up. And Oregon, if they win out, they're going to go to the college football playoffs. As long as they don't screw up along the way. They had a bad week 1 against Georgia, absolutely, but that was week 1. And I'm not a big believer in holding teams completely accountable for what happens in week 1. I'm a big, what are you doing now? What have you shown the committee since then? And don't get me started on the committee, because I have to self-censor myself right now. I'm going to say something regrettable. I'm going to say something cancelable, and I don't think it's in everyone's best interest for me to do that right now.
Keep it together. You're doing good.
So
Keep it
I didn't. Let me just get a sip of my lemon mint water, by the way.
All right. While you're doing that, I'm going to comment on your Alabama Ole Miss pick over 63.5.
Yeah.
How many times have you been sitting there during you said 58-0 game, and you're wondering what that coach is thinking? Like, do I just get off the field? This is embarrassing. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And you are so spot on with Lane Kiffin saying, heck with it. Let's score as many as we can. And I love that take. And I want to be on the over just for that reason, because you're always trying to get in that coach's brain. Like, is he embarrassed? Does he want to get out of here? Or is he just trying to stick it to the man, not let Nick get a shutout? I'm with you. I'm totally with you on that over.
And another angle, you don't think this is Lane Kiffin's audition for the Auburn game? The Auburn job? Like, let's be real for a minute. If he goes in and hangs with Bama 45-42, pretty sure he's going to get a call from Auburn. Sorry, I keep looking up. I have Eastern Michigan minus a touchdown. They're up 10 right now against our old foe, Akron. So I got my eyes all over the place.
So congratulations on getting through this pretty quickly.
Thank
I got
you.
no other questions except for when you're coming to campus here in 13 days or so.
Yeah.
What do you expect to see at Liberty? What do you expect to see that has changed? How do you anticipate whenever you see the crowd for the first time, a full stadium that is on fire with Hugh Freeze on the sidelines calling plays? Are you so pumped to see that? And do you have like expectations? Or are you just like, I think everything you've ever thought about Liberty is about to change here in a few weeks. Are you excited about that?
I'm so excited. Chad, I don't know if your dorm was similar to mine or, those out there watching, but we used to have like one prayer group meeting a year that would go to like IHOP or Buffalo Wild Wings. And I would just look forward to that. I'd sit through everything and I was like, just get me to this prayer group meeting where we can go to Buffalo Wild Wings and IHOP and eat on the prayer leader's dime. Like, that's all I looked forward to. And this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm equating the Virginia Tech game to. Like, I'm so fired up. I'm so glad. I was going to go to UConn this weekend, but schedule change and I was able to make Virginia Tech work. So I'm just excited. I saw campus. I was at the ASON championship game right before COVID in 2020. So fine. I saw the campus, saw the hosh posh. I'm not a student anymore, so I couldn't care less what the library looks like. Couldn't care less what the LaHaye Student Center looks like. Could not care less about any of that. There's a bowling alley. Great. I'm not there to use it, so I don't care. However, I am there to see a football game. And I am there to be a football fan and a basketball fan. So I'm excited to go to the Liberty Arena Friday night and check that out and see that team, coming off big game against Alabama. I think there's a midweek game in between as well, but just to see the stadium, see the upgrades. I haven't been there in probably 6 years. So to be there for a big opponent like Virginia Tech, to meet so many of you that we've been chatting with on Twitter, those who have been heckling me, those who have been supportive. It's just going to be great to get out there. I hear there's going to be Chick-fil-A at the tailgate. And I'm excited to just get out there, be in the crowd, and get my cheer on and just check it all out. And do they have Annie Ann's at the they do Annie Ann's at the stadium or no?
I can't remember. I'm not a big. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not a big Annie Ann's fan, but no, I don't think so. Not anymore. Yes to Annie Ann's, John says in the chat.
Yes.
So yes, they do. Here's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the tailgate on Saturday morning.
Yep.
It's only going to be it's a noon game, so we're only going to have
Yeah.
a couple hours, and we're going to have providing coffee to anybody who wants to stop by. I'm looking forward to how many people are going to come up to you and give you their Venmo and say, "Hey, you owe me like $300 because your picks have just absolutely stunk." So I'm looking to
We'll
how
put
many
the
people are going to
graphic.
try to.
Producer Nick, put the graphic up. Put it up. What's that year-to-date say at the bottom?
24 and 26. Okay,
That's
so you're two-
That's just around 48%. A little under 48%. People act like I wake up in the morning and I accidentally chew on my Apple Watch instead of brushing my teeth. Like, you look at what the Bear is on College Game Day. Significantly less than 47.8%. Like,
Yeah, it's not easy to pick against the spread. There's only
no.
48% got Trump elected. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I don't know who said that, but yeah. I mean, if I were if I were shooting three, here's my goal. What's Darius shoot from three?
43. John's going to correct me, but I think it's around 43, 44.
Good. If I'm hovering at a good 3-point shooter percentile, this is good. Also, don't follow my picks if you think I'm an idiot. Like, if we're this far into it and you're heckling me on Twitter and you continue to follow my picks, you're an idiot. You're an absolute baboon. Like,
okay, you're gonna have to deal with these people in about 13 days, and I'm really looking forward to it. All right, hey man, appreciate all you do. So listen,
thank you for having me on.
I'm gonna take up for my guy here for a minute. Yes, he's giving picks. Yes, he's having fun with this. But the reason he's a part of this podcast and the reason he's a good friend of mine and a big part of what we do here on Twitter and everything else is because he is purely entertaining and he loves the Flames. You have those two things. You're purely entertaining and you love the Flames. And so everybody, there you go. Flames football Saturday.
I tried to set this up in my background, but then I was like, I stole this like I did the recycling cans, so I don't need to add any more to my rap sheet.
Yeah. So anybody that is chirping him about his pick for
no, it's all good. Keep it going. I think it's funny.
Okay, good deal, man. Hey, good luck to you, and we will see you in a couple weeks. Really looking forward to it.
Can't wait.
All right, let's bring in Kyle DeArmond. So the fact that Kyle is joining us this early in the night means he lost the first round of his softball game.
No,
Kyle,
lost the second round.
Okay, so tonight was second round.
No. Tonight was doubleheader. Won the first game. Then we had to we played the number one seed. And, Chad, in my new profession here, I'm playing with a bunch of engineers. I don't want to say that athletics isn't at the forefront of their mind, but.
Are you a lefty?
I am.
Okay, so describe your softball game in 10 seconds or less. What position, what kind of batter are you?
Center field, third batter. Just trying to get base hits and get outs in the outfield.
So you're a speedster. They don't put the slow guys in center field, and they don't put slow guys at third. If you're just trying to get base hits, you're a speedster. So
like I said, if I was playing with a bunch of former baseball players, I'd be batting ninth and playing right field. So
okay, all right. So let's get to our Flames. Huge night in Arkansas, man. I just, when you look at these two rosters and you look at it was only a 14-point spread, so it's not that huge, but what does it say for the depth and the roster and just the way that these guys played? I don't know. For me, this felt like just insurmountable. I did not think that we would be able to go on the road in the SEC and beat a team like Arkansas. I thought we had a much better chance against BYU. I think we have a much better chance here in a couple weeks against BT. All the other P5 wins I thought were toss-ups. This was one that I thought, okay, let's go down there and just try to keep it close. how impressive of a win was that the other night?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was unbelievable. You know, Freeze always talks about building the defense or building the team with, at the quarterback position and defensive line. And we saw our defensive line just completely dominate the opponent. I mean, they completely dominate Arkansas from the beginning. And it was noticeable from the very first snap, like, okay, we're going to be in this game. I think Hugh Freeze has an unbelievable way of getting his guys ready to play. Like I've never been around anybody who can do that like he can. And he's just super talented at getting those guys ready to play. But at the same time, too, I mean, Josh Aldridge and Jack Curtis and that defensive staff, I mean, what a game they called. But yeah, I mean, the defensive line just dominated. And I think it speaks to the talent that we've been able to recruit and bring in, and the transfer portal has helped for sure. But the development of players too. I mean, Darrell Johnson was 220 pounds maybe when they signed him, out of junior college, and he's just transformed thanks to Dom and the strength staff, and he's become a player that is just he's going to be able to play at the next level. So I think it's just, I mean, the other thing, and I don't know if you guys talked about it because I got on late, but I was on the sideline when we played against Auburn in 2018, and I mean, I saw what defenses and what players in the SEC looked like, and they were the biggest human beings I've ever seen. Derek Brown, who was there, who's now balling for the Carolina Panthers here, he was just an animal. He took AGG and threw him like a rag doll. So, Arkansas, they may have not been at the level that Auburn was that year. I mean, they probably were, though, honestly. I mean, they probably were. It was just, it's just different now. It's just different. The players are different, and we can compete with these teams week in and week out, and he has shown that we can do that. I mean, there's no game that we're going to go into that we're just going to be outmatched physically anymore. And I think that it speaks to the recruiting. It speaks to the development. It's fun to watch.
All right. I am not one to sit back and say, woe is me, Liberty's a victim. They don't like us. It's religious. They don't like what our mission is. But with that being said, Greg Sankey has openly commented about he's the SEC commissioner. Who knows if he actually was able to blackball any coaches from being in the league. But the fact that he's the head of this committee that just blatantly didn't recognize the AP or the coaches poll, where we're both 19. They have us at least 6 spots worse than that. This reminds me a little bit of when we were left out of the FCS playoffs, and we were ranked like 15 or 14 at the time. Thought we would for sure be in, and then it got left out. I thought for sure, I was predicting like 2021. I knew it was going to be higher than the AP and coaches. What is your take on this? I'm trying not to go down that. I'm trying to take my tinfoil hat off and not think it has to do anything with our mission or our school. I think it has a lot to do with our strength of schedule. I think it has a lot to do with Wake Forest kind of bombing here the last couple of weeks. I think it has a lot to do with a close win over – who was it that we barely beat that we should have just throttled? Gardner-Webb. So I think there's a lot of factors in there, but the tinfoil hat in me wants to say they just hate Liberty. Greg Sankey hates Hugh Freeze or something similar. That's all the conspiracy in me. How much are you buying of that? And is there, I mean, I know you think we probably should be ranked, but how much do you play into the fact that we are Liberty and we're not the prettiest girl at the dance right now?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks for sure, but I think it adds fuel to the fire. It adds fuel to the fire on a week that you need it. I mean, you're going into UConn, and on paper, what's the spread? What are we against? What's the spread for you for the UConn game?
14 or 14 and a half.
Yeah,
maybe
so
15.
I mean, so like a game that we need this momentum and we need this juice. I mean, UConn is playing for bowl eligibility, and they've been playing good, and they beat they beat a Power 5 team in Boston College. Now Boston College is down, but they have better players than UConn does. And so I look at it as like, so what? Like, it's going to take a year. It's the momentum that we get from this. And John mentioned it, in his segment, but like, you look at UCF, they're ranking UCF based on UCF's, consistency at winning and having a good record and, beating Cincinnati. Like that, they beat Cincinnati, we beat Arkansas, BYU, they're not looking at these teams as like these big, like momentous wins like we do as fans. They're looking at them like BYU, not very good. Arkansas, 5-3. They're 5-4. They're kind of struggling this year. Like other than like who's like kind of Liberty's big win, they lost to Wake Forest by 1, and Wake is they're not great. So I mean, I think that's how they're looking at it. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, it ticks you off as a fan to be like, we should be in the top 25, and I think we should, and I completely think we should. But I think it just adds fuel to the fire for Freeze and for our players. You go 11-1 on the year. We got to win this week at UConn, but you go 11-1 on the year and you put yourself in position. The thing that kind of sucks about it is the way that they have it ranked. Whoever wins the American Conference is going to be ahead of us. Whether that's Cincinnati, UCF, it's going to be, one of those teams. Tulane's got a tough stretch here at the end, but it is what it is. And I think that we deserve it for sure. I think our kids deserve it. We deserve to be in that ranking. But at the end of the day, let's just go win a football game on Saturday and let everything else take care of itself.
That's a great way to look at it. And I think that kind of plays with me a little bit, that as a fan, BYU meant so much to the committee. It didn't mean that much.
No, exactly.
As a fan, going on the road and beating Arkansas meant the world to them. It was against a 5-4 Arkansas team that's down a little bit, and we barely beat them by 1 point. So take off all the Liberty colored glasses, and I think I can make sense of it a little bit. Not saying I wouldn't rank us, but I'm not putting on the hat and saying, oh, they just hate.
I would rank us. I would rank us for sure. I mean, I'm right there with you, Chad. I mean, like, I would rank us.
So, all right. I gave John a shot at this, and you've been around for all of these. How would you categorize / rank the win against Arkansas in school history, best win, so on and so forth? If you didn't hear, I'll give you a summary of mine real quick. I think Baylor was the one that propelled us the most. Gave our fan base, our school, just kind of pushed us forward the most. I think that BYU is the most meaningful, and I think that Arkansas is the best team, the best roster. Those guys are going to be playing on Sundays, a few of them. I think that's the best team we've beat. How do you look at the win down there at Arkansas and rank it? And do you do something similar where you say, well, yeah, it was good in this, but it probably wasn't the most meaningful?
Yeah, I would, without thinking about it too much, I mean, I would agree that the Baylor win, we won that with all FCS recruits. Like none of those kids, besides the freshmen like DJ Stubbs who played, and maybe some of the freshmen that played on defense, were recruited as we are going into the football bowl subdivision and it's guaranteed for sure. Everybody else was like, we want to, we think we have a shot. That game propelled us into the spotlight for sure. I think that the wins in 2020 kind of like showed everybody like, okay, like it's Hugh Freeze, that's expected. He's going to have some big wins. Malik Willis is a really good player. And then, BYU, biggest win in school history from the aspect of like, it was kind of like dreamed that would happen. I think the Arkansas win like solidifies us as a legit program, and it solidifies us as one of the top group of 5 programs in the nation. And, I know I gave you that stat a couple weeks ago, and, that's great, but when you kind of look at it, if we dive deep on it, there's a lot of New Mexico states, like New Mexico, UMass a couple times. Like, so people are going to look at that and be like, yeah, that's great, but it's not the American Conference. You weren't playing Cincinnati and UCF and SMU and all these schools. But I do think that the Arkansas win kind of solidified us as we're here and we're not going anywhere for a really long time. We're going to continue to get recruits. We're going to continue to win. And, Liberty is a mainstay in the Group of Five conference, and they're going to be somebody who you do not want on your schedule. And we've kind of seen that. All these Power Five schools, you would be stupid to play us. Like, that's a bad decision because with Hugh Freeze as the head coach, like, I mean, it's going to be a toss-up, and you might get blown out. Like, and definitely don't come to Williams Stadium and play because you're not going to be prepared. You think it's just a bunch of like Christian kids and it's all good and like, oh, it's going to be calm and like they don't have as many people. I mean, it's loud. It's loud there. So I would kind of categorize it like that.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair. All right, I'm going to kind of bring us down to earth here a little bit, and I'm going to bring us back to the days where I don't think we'll ever get there. Like in my lifetime, I'm going to bring up an experience you had on Saturday night, and that is LSU beating Alabama. You were in Baton Rouge. You're in Death Valley. It looked amazing on TV. They rushed the field. They beat up a powerhouse, Alabama. I guess from your perspective, being there and experiencing that, do you have, knowing what you know now and how far we've come, do you have any imagination, any ability to fathom Liberty competing at that level and doing something similar within your lifetime?
I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, that place was, I mean, I've been in a lot of loud environments, and I'm not just talking like football games being loud. Like, I'm talking like a NASCAR event where you have to wear earplugs because it is just, I mean, your head's pounding loud. That place, I mean, it was literally the first time in my life that I've been like, I have to plug my ears or my eardrums are going to burst. It was the loudest thing I have ever heard in my life. It was unbelievable. Can we get there as a fan base? I mean, I don't think we'll ever be there like that as a fan base. I mean, that's, 100,000 people. Like that's, that's different. That's SEC football.
In your lifetime?
In my lifetime, can we compete with those teams? I mean, I think we can compete with them. I don't know. That's tough. I mean, you're kind of putting me on the spot here, and my lifetime, I don't know. I mean, I'm getting old, so I mean, it's shoot, I don't know. I mean, it would be tough. It would be tough to do it every single week. I think you're like one-offs of playing those teams. Like, say we get into and we get into like a New Year's Six game in a year, like next year or 2 years, and we're going to end up playing, an LSU. We're going to play one of those schools. We'll compete. We will compete. We're going to compete week in and week out. But I mean, to do it every single week over and over and over and over and over again, that's going to be hard. I mean, think about like how beat up we were after the first kind of 4 weeks. I mean, the depth is just different,
Well, I was on the wrong side of forecasting and prognosticating about 10 years ago. And so I don't know if I want to be on the wrong side of that again, but I do agree with you that is something that, I just can't imagine it. I mean, if we get there, it won't surprise me, and I would be right there in the middle of it. And that's where we're trying to get to, and that's the goal. But in my imagination, it will not let me allow me to get to 100,000+ fans in Williams Stadium playing against who has been the decade-long reigning champs, of college football.
Yeah, I think that for us, like, we always, after these wins, I think the Liberty fans, they go to we want Bama. We should be able to win a national championship because we beat an SEC school. We got to come back down to reality a little bit. Are we a really good football team? Yes. Should we be ranked in the college football playoff? Yes. Are we at the level yet of being like the upper echelon of teams? No. And I say that because like the fan base will be like, oh my gosh, we just won a huge game. And then, 2 weeks later, you lose. And it's like, what are we? We are like, what are we doing? Like, this is like, how come in the world could we have lost that game? We just beat Arkansas. Like, the reality is, like, we are living in a time, and the students are in a time, and we are all in a time where like Liberty Athletics is at an all-time high, and we need to enjoy that because you never know what can happen. You never know what coach is going to leave, what coach is going to come in all sports, not just football. And so it's just like, let's enjoy this time, be thankful that we have Ian McCall as our leader, that we have Hugh Freeze as our head coach for football, that we have Scott Jackson for baseball, and we have Richie McKay for basketball, Kerry Green. I mean, you could continue to go on and on and on. I think we'd be thankful of that, and we just continue to look forward, and, we got to win Saturday. I think that's like the coach's hat in me still is like, yeah, beating BYU is awesome. Beating Arkansas is awesome, but you're going to a place that they're fighting for bowl eligibility. They're going to be fired up to play. They're playing a top 25 team at home. Like, it's going to be tough. So, I mean, that's kind of how I am.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, like, this is recorded and it's gonna be stored in the archives forever. So in 30 years, whenever there's 100,000 people in Lynchburg, I'm gonna bring this back up and say you and I had no vision. We have no BHAG. There's no Jerry Senior in us. We are just two twerps who are trying to be negative Nancy's. I don't know, but I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I think that the other side of that too, Chad, is like, if we sat here and we were like, in 10 years, we need to be at least 75,000 people on a weekly basis in Lynchburg, and we're going to be in the SEC, and we're going to be beating all those teams, and we at least should have not, maybe not 3, but 2 national championships. I think people would be like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What are we doing?
No, we're realistic. We're optimistic. We're trying to fan the flames the best we know how. Here's what I do know, and you mentioned it. We're in the golden era. We're on one of the best waves of fans that we will ever catch in our entire lives. Let's ride this thing. Let's enjoy it, and let's have fun with it. KD, I will throw it to you for final comments here. Anything you want to talk about, whether it's the college football playoff, whether it's UConn, whether it's Arkansas, whether it's the projection of Liberty Athletics and Liberty football, whether it's Hugh Freeze, what is it that's on your mind that you want to make sure that that our fans are hearing this week prior to what we got left, 3 games left?
I want to give a huge shout out to our man JB. I mean, you think about what that guy has been through from the start of his career all the way now. Losing out on being named the starter week 1, getting pulled in that game. And then, the mental game that these kids have to play now, especially with social media and people commenting on everything. And I love our fans to death, and they're going to praise you when you're doing good. And if you're doing bad, they're going to call you out on it, which is a sign of a, kind of maturing fan base. Not everybody's going to praise you all the time, but I mean, for what that kid has gone through, and for him to kind of keep his nose down and continue to work and kind of block out the noise, and he's continuing to get better. I mean, it just kind of speaks to the person that he is, and knowing him personally, I know that, and so I'm really, really proud of him. Really thankful that he has stuck it out, that he has pushed through some adversity, and that he is our quarterback, and he's done a great job. And I'm just very thankful for him, and, excited for his future outside of football. I think he's gonna be a great football coach, and, he's awesome. So shout out to JB, shout out to the boys. Let's go beat UConn, and let's keep this thing rolling.
Hey, one last shout out here is to producer Nick Kirby. Dude, you absolutely killed it the other night on your basketball preview show. You had so many guests coming on. I was thinking about what would I be doing if I had that many guests and that like only 10 minutes at a piece. I would.
You
die.
wouldn't be able to do it. Like
no,
you would.
No, my questions are 10 minutes. My questions are 10 minutes long. What am I going to do?
We got to work on that. Is there like a class or schooling we can go to for that?
We're going to watch film. We're going to get in the film room. We're going to clean it up. We got things we can improve, but we're on the next week. And hey, always a fun time. Appreciate you, KD, jumping on. Nick Kirby, appreciate you producing. Love what you're doing for the basketball podcast. And with that, we will see you guys next week. Go Flames. Man, let's go get that win against UConn. And you know, we still have a lot to play for. Let's make the college football playoff, rank us, make them talk about us. We win these next 3 games, they're going to rank us. So that's all we got to focus on.